Hold on. No, I'm not having this. I'm not having this.
I've messaged a certain Edward Hearn on Instagram and he's left me unseen, but I'm gonna be relentless in my approach to hopefully getting a reply from him someday.
Frank, I've actually emailed him every morning for 2 months saying good morning, Edward.
Hello folks and welcome back to the Brawl Boxing podcast. I'm Kieran McCourt and I'm joined by co-hosts Colin McGuigan and Ram McLaughlin. As always guys, I just want to give a shout out to our first sponsor, 92 Degrees. They're a coffee shop which started over in Liverpool and they've now just expanded into various other cities such as Manchester and Leeds. So if you're in any of them cities, please do check out their coffee because it's absolutely amazing and they've really helped us out coming on board. So thanks a million lads, we appreciate that.
Thanks for that, McCourt. And another company which has made this all possible is our other amazing sponsor, CBD Uplift. CBD Uplift is home of the highest quality CBD available in the UK. So if you head over to cbduplift.co.uk, you can begin to uplift yourself today using code BRAWL20 at checkout. That'll give you 20% off your entire order and free shipping. Thanks a million for the support, lads. It really means so much to us. We couldn't do this without you. Also, another big thank you goes to Wow Hydrate, who have came on board as a new sponsor for us as well. So why not push it and check out their website for some great deals. Well, guys, for anyone who's been following the podcast for a while, they'll know we've been trying so hard to get this man on. We've went to extreme lengths. Ryan actually had an Instagram message from Instagram support asking him to stop DMing Eddie at one point. So we finally managed to seal a deal. Please welcome the chairman of Matchroom Sport and most importantly, the new director of Brawl Boxing, Mr. Eddie Hearn. Eddie, how you doing, mate?
Thank you. It's an honour to be part of the team, to be honest. Taking over from my old man was big, but to make it on your board,
Eddie, it's a pleasure to have you. We just don't know if you're up to the job. We've seen what you've done.
Maybe a little 3-month probation or something like that. You know.
Eddie, I just like to apologise on behalf of Brawl Boxing for me stalking you on Instagram. I mean,
you are quite scary because I don't know where you are in the world, but all I know is it's light outside and you look like you're in seedy establishment. I don't know.
Wait. Well, let's make up for it.
No, that's all right, mate. I'll take it all back.
I was relentless in my Instagram DMs to you, Eddie, and it's paid off. It's
because Ryan has the blue tick. We sent him in as like the heavy squad. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't work with Mr. Edward Hearn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It didn't work.
We had Jamel Herring on last week, and he was
even that one as well. I feel like, you know, I mean, you've got a world champion there. He's like, you know, I DM'd Eddie Hearn, and I'm thinking, buddy, I'm going to get a letter from Top Rank in a minute, you know, telling me, why are you speaking to my fight? He was actually talking about some other young kid that he works with or something like that. But I was like, you know, I'm not very good. I was actually listening to, there's a guy in Scotland who's a dear friend of mine called Alex Morrison, right? Who's a bit of a handful, but he's like 80, right? He's Ricky Burns' manager. And he calls me all the time, but he calls at the worst times, right? So you're at a press conference and you feel your phone go in your pocket, you look at it, it's Alex Morrison, it's like, fuck, because I know he's going mad. And he leaves me messages like he's going to kill me, right? And I was just playing my messages back today. I had like 22 messages. And there was one from a week ago. It was Alex Morrison. He says, "Yeah, ignorant fucker." He's like, he goes, my only wish is to come face to face with you. And I swear, I'm thinking, fucking hell. Like, you know, I've got to change my number or something. But
Wait, did you call this man a dear friend?
Yeah, he's actually. He's a little bit of a lunatic, to be fair. But I like him because I'll tell you one funny story about him, right? So funny. I was in Mallorca, right? And I was having dinner down at Porto Patel's with a missus and a friend. And he's phoned me, right? And I've looked at my phone and I've gone, oh, for fuck's sake. And I've put the phone down on the table. I've gone to the toilet. I've come out the toilet. I've looked up. He's standing right at me. He's standing right
oh my God.
Right? He's sitting on the table behind. He's phoned me, like, just to see what my reaction would be.
Eddie, you need to ring a call.
Oh, fuck off. Like that, you know what I mean? Like, I can't escape this guy, but I do love him dearly. But, you know.
No, but the thing is with you actually, we have discussed this before. You might be one of the most interviewed men on the planet. in like all sport, like you're constantly having to do interviews. This begs the question, right? And we've also discussed this. Who have you talked to more in your life, Coogan or your missus?
Definitely Coogan. I mean, I probably spoke to you more than I spoke to the missus in the last 2 weeks. We're all travelling around.
Business first, family close second.
Because, like, you look at the Fury Joshua situation at the moment, right? I don't really want to talk about it. You know, you're welcome to ask questions, but because everyone gets bored with it, and that everyone asks me every day, how long? Like, what would you say? What's the percentage chance? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm sure it'll be done by this time next week. And then you roll around to next week, and literally people are DMing me with that clip, going, "You said 1 week. Like, what the fuck's going on? What are you doing, Hearn?" It's like, oh mate, I don't know. Just that's how long I thought it would take. So you can't really win. But I think one of the things we've always done is I like to think we've been quite transparent. And when you see me on social media, it's me. It's not like no one runs my accounts, you know, my Twitter and Instagram accounts. I feel like it's been probably the most powerful tool that we've had. You know, in your world, I finish a show, you know, if one fight was bad on the card, you look at social media and you're the devil. You know what I mean? So, but that's one of the great things about fight fans. They're so passionate, they're so vocal, but the downside of that is, you know, you feel like you're sometimes fighting a bit of a losing battle, despite how hard you're trying.
Yeah, like I have this argument with people. They say about, you know, on a matchroom card of like a judge or something scores or something mental, and they're always like, "Oh, matchroom cards." It's like it's the British Boxing Board of Control. It's not Eddie Hearn that puts these people there.
We had it last week in Spain, right? I've never met the Spanish Commission. It's always you. It's like they think that we have judges that work on all our shows around the world, and they just basically do what we say. It's unbelievable. But you know, and then I think there was a fight on the Frank Warren card last week with Felix Cash. Like David Adelaide, or I think most people felt he lost. He was like, "Oh, well, it's not just Hearn. Warren's at it as well." You know, it's like, take some heat. It's just called bad officiating. You know, that's what it's called. It's nothing to do with corruption or anything like that. It's just sometimes, as in football, people get it horribly wrong. And unfortunately, in boxing, you see it probably too often.
Are you in the bubble at the minute or no?
No, I go up tonight. So I go up tonight, test, and then they'll
Is that the brand new office, Eddie?
This is my old office, soon to be Frank Smith's office, and my office, which like my old man's office looked like something out of a 1940s billiard hall. So I've gone in there, the paint's up, I've new desks, everything, you know, and I think about a week's time I'll be sliding over there.
Which one's the Brawl Boxing office then?
Yeah, that one's at the garden down there. It's at the bottom of fight camp, you know. Okay.
So Eddie, in terms of this card for the weekend, obviously it's a massive card. Everyone can't wait for the weekend. Some really, really good fights. In terms of your pick of the bunch, what's your pick?
Do you know what? I'm going to say one that's going to shock you a little bit. I'm going to say Bivol against Craig Richards, right? Because look, sometimes you fall in love with a fighter, right? And Craig's our guy, like he trains at the Matchroom gym. But you start convincing yourself, could something unbelievable happen here? I mean, we're not deluded. Like Craig Richards is a massive underdog in the fight. But then you start thinking, do you know what? And I will, like, not just saying this, he's been looking spectacular in camp, right? When he boxed Shakan Pitters, he come off the Chad Sugden fight, and I thought to myself, you know, I don't know, can he beat Pitters? I quite rate him. He's a huge 175, like he's looked good, and he absolutely battered him. And since then, like his confidence has gone to new levels. On paper, he shouldn't be able to beat Dimitri Bivol. Like I rate Bivol as one of the top fighters in the world. His footwork's outstanding. He's got power. He's got speed. But Bivol hasn't boxed for 16 months, right? Bivol is from Russia. Bivol's coming to the UK. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to talk myself into it, but I've just got a funny feeling in that fight that something, you know, quite bizarre or unique or shocking is going to happen. So that excites me. Of course, Taylor Jonas has had massive traction. You know, I mean, that's a great fight. Natasha was brilliant last time out against Terry Harper. Chisora Parker, I think, is a great fight. I always have done since it was made. It was supposed to be on the Josh Taylor Regis Prograis fight. I even like Eubank Morrison, to be honest with you. Same kind of thing in that, where on paper you expect Eubank to go through Marcus Morrison, but don't know, I've started looking at Eubank a little bit. I was just watching a clip before you guys called, and I started thinking, you're actually a bit old now. You know, you're like, you know, I know he's only 31 or whatever he is, but it's kind of, you know, like he was a young. And I was listening to his interview, thinking, I like what you're saying. You're quite mature now. You're quite sensible, but that can go two ways. One, you can mature as a fighter and actually improve, or two, maybe you've had your day. So, you know, Joe Gallagher's got two fighters in there with Marcus Morrison and Natasha. And one thing you know about Marcus is he's bang up for it. Like, he could completely change his life. He's in Manchester. He's just toodled down the road. He's in the bubble. I don't know. And of course, James Tennyson, who's never in a poor fight. And Campbell Hatton, who, again, although he's fighting someone with a losing record, he's fighting someone from Manchester who's coming to change his life. So I'm sure that'll be thrilling as well. But I love the card. You know, it's difficult with no fans, of course, but it's probably one of the last few in that kind of environment. And I think it'll be a great show.
Yeah, you mentioned there about James Tennyson. Obviously, us three are from Belfast, and everyone's very, very excited about him. We actually got the idea originally of hassling you from an interview you talked about Mark Dunlop. Yeah. And you were like, this guy does not leave me alone.
Honestly, what a pest that bloke is. I mean, I say Alex Morrison's a dear friend, so's Mark Dunlop. You know, there isn't, we know that, but a lot of people say there's no loyalty in boxing. There's no loyalty in life, really, let's be honest. Like, I mean, whenever there's money involved, it's always a problem. So there's not many people in boxing that I would genuinely say, like, I trust them 100%. Mark's one of them, right? But he's also a massive pain in the ass, right? Like, he does not leave me alone. So he'll message me something, an idea, and then it's just the WhatsApp gates just fucking flood. Literally, next thing, there's 30 messages from Mark Dunlop, there's voice notes, you know, and he goes on one. So he's like, I think James Tennyson should fight for the IBO world title. You know, it would be great for him to become world champion. I said, look, as a boxing fan, like, I respect the IBO, right? I said, but I have a problem with you calling James Tennyson a world champion if he wins on Saturday, right? This is just me being honest, right? He is a world champion, but he's not a world champion in one of the more recognizable governing bodies, okay? Yeah, but, you know, he'll be a world champion. I said, no, Mark, he won't. Like, don't expect me in the interview on Saturday night to stand up there and say, this is Belfast's new world champion. You know, it's a step in the ladder to where we want to be. Okay, next thing, I mean, he was going to fight Ricky Burns. Next thing, he said, can I look for opponents? So I'm like, yeah, mate, whatever. Fucking hell. Next thing, I mean, BoxRec on BoxRec. This guy, that guy, spoke to the RBO. I said, just calm down. You've got people that can do this for you. Yeah, but I mean, he loves his fighters. Loves his, like, honestly. But a lot of managers, you know, sometimes managers are the ones who are supposed to keep the promoters in check. But with Dunlop, you've got to keep him in check. Every one of his fighters is Muhammad Ali. You know, he's got that great new prospect, Nick Campbell, who I love. You know, he's a real good, he can be a good. Mark, he's like, I think Mark would put him in with, you know, AJ and Tyson Fury. That's how good he is. So I really rate James Tennyson. You know, I mean, we're still, I think, you know, against Straffon, you're going to see a tough Mexican who will test him. I still want to see him go rounds. You know, James looked a little bit vulnerable at times when he stepped up the levels, but that was at super featherweight. It was absolutely killing him to make the weight, you know. And I just think that at 135, he's strong. He punches so hard, but he's so exciting. You know, I actually think that, you know, now that Carl Frampton's retired, I think it's really time for Belfast boxing to get behind James Tennyson, you know, Tommy Mack, you know, all these kind of guys, because I think, you know, James Tennyson is a guy who he could headline the Odyssey, you know, in a big fight at lightweight. And, you know, every fight with Tennyson is going to be absolutely thrilling.
Well, Eddie, on that, is there a possibility of a Belfast card in the not too distant future?
If the fight is big enough for James Tennyson, you know, like we were talking about Jorge Linares after his last fight, that's the kind of fight that I think you have to bring, you know. Yeah. Even a Ryan Garcia, you know, something that makes the fans, because the thing is with Tennyson is he's loved in Belfast, but he doesn't quite have the mass reach of a Frampton or someone like that. So you need the kind of fight. Now, when Frampton was big, we came with Kiko Martinez, we came with Steve Molitor, all these kind of fights. We were like 5,000, 8,000 at the Odyssey. With Tennyson, he can do those numbers, but he needs the right dance partner as well. But I really feel like they should support him because he's a good lad. I mean, proper hard-working, old school, no frills, but full of entertainment.
I know you probably thought after the whole Frampton gate that you're hated in Belfast. It's not the case, Eddie.
No, I love, I don't. It's difficult because some people just automatically think you're a prick, like without even meeting you. You know what I mean? And in Belfast, I had some great times. Like these kind of places, Belfast, Newcastle, Leeds, Liverpool. I love places that love their own. And there's no more than that in Belfast. And when I was starting out, Belfast was kind of like the first place. Like Kiko Martinez against Carl Frampton 1.
Yeah.
Was my first sort of show where I sort of looked around and went, fuck, like I've not really experienced anything like this before. This is unbelievable. And I was gutted, when things broke down with Barry McGuigan and we never got a deal done because I never got the chance. Like I never spoke to Carl Frampton once, right? And I pride myself on liking to have personal relationships with fighters. Sometimes when you're close to them, in my experience, all my relationships have been fantastic. When you're not close to them, can go either way. Someone could say something or say that pisses someone off and etc. But with Carl, I never really had a conversation with him once. And after that Kiko Martinez fight, I really felt like we had a chance to do something special. Obviously, it didn't work out with Barry McGuigan, etc. And I was gutted because I remember that I was in the office and I received a parcel. And it was a Box Nation t-shirt, remember at the time, right? And there was a note in there saying, ha ha, enjoy watching Carl on Box Nation. And it was either from Carl or one of the camp or Frank Warren's office, probably the latter.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah. I thought to myself, that's a kick in the nuts, isn't it? That's a little bit of a snidey thing to do, but a bit gutted really because I felt like we had something special there. So when we did the Quigg fight, that press conference was legendary, and I never felt intimidated or disappointed. I like the crack, and I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to get a lot of stick at this press conference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and I'm going to let them know that Ryan Burnett is going to fight for the world title, and we're bringing big time boxing back to Belfast, right? So I turned up and they started booing me as I got on stage. I went, all right. I said, firstly, I want to say I miss you all, right? And I'm delighted to announce that we will be back in Belfast soon with Ryan Burnett for the world title. And I can't wait to be back here with you guys. And they were like, it was like, oh, that's great news, but we hate you. So we're a bit confused now, and then they start booing and shouting things up. But then I said, but the bad news is, I said, Carl Frampton's getting knocked out. And the place went, not just saying it for you boys, but they're my kind of people. Like I like people who like to go out and have a laugh and have a beer and love sport and are passionate and like to sing and enjoy themselves. And they care, So as a promoter, there's nothing better than fans that care and that support. So, we'd love to go back to Belfast. We went there with Ryan when he won the world title and when he unified it. And I believe we can do the same with James Tennyson.
I actually met you, Eddie, walking out of Frampton Quigg as you were leaving. So after the main event, and you were walking out, and everyone was giving you dogs abuse.
Oh,
and I must have been like the only nice person because you stopped for a photo with me. I was like, Eddie, I know everyone here thinks you're a wanker, but I like you.
Yeah. I wasn't in the mood for a conversation that night. I remember, I was doing, the whole thing was really quite bitter. Like you had Barry McGuigan, you had Shane McGuigan. And,
no relation, by the way.
No, I get on. I've never. We went through a period. There's a lot of emotion. You have to understand. And I was doing an interview after that fight in the alleyway with Coogan, and Shane McGuigan came in the interview and went, wanker, or something like that. I thought, fucking cheat, and walked off. And but that's what it meant to everyone. When I took O'Hara Davis up to Scotland to fight Josh Taylor, even when Josh Taylor won that fight, Barry McGuigan stood on the apron and went to me, fuck you. That was like 2 years ago, but that's how it was. But I don't mind that, if it means something, it means something. And I'd rather it meant something than it didn't mean something. And, you know, we can laugh about that now, you know, because I've got fighters that Shane manages and or trains, and I think he's a great trainer. And, you know, Barry's obviously done a lot for the sport. And, you know, I don't really hold any grudges, but when it means something, that's when it's big. You know, it's a bit like, of course, Fury against AJ. You know, even Canelo against Billy Joe. You know, we're having our backs and forths, and I think part of that for me is his tactics, and part of that is because he's trying to rev himself up. But it's because it means something. You know, emotions are running high, and when emotions run high, it's important. And generally, there's a lot to play for, and that's high level sport. So you can't just expect everything to be plain sailing and everyone just to be like that, especially in a fight game. Like, you know, they're going out having a fight. It's not like they're having a little knockabout at tennis. I mean, they're trying to knock each other out, and you're part of that. And you're screaming and shouting, and that's why it's such a great sport.
Even that night at Frampton, Quigg, you're not the only one that got abused verbally, because we actually had Carl Frampton on like a few months ago, and he went into Quigg's changing room after the fight, and he said that Wayne Rooney came over to him steaming and called him a wee cunt.
So in that contract for that fight, right, there's always like who walks first, and it was like we got to a situation where there was, I think Carl had first choice of changing room, right, but Scott Quigg always had this one changing room with Joe Gallagher that they always used, right, and that was the home changing room, right. And Scott Quigg was in the home corner. So we argued we should get the home dressing room, right? And it was like, no, we've got first choice of changing room. I said, yeah, but we're the home fighter. We get the home dressing room. No. We get first. Fucking honestly, the fight nearly fell through the day before. In the end, we've had to have a compromise that no one gets the home dressing room and they just have to choose two others. Do you know what I mean? It was that bad, like that fight. It was definitely, you know, the toughest like negotiation and fight I've ever been involved with, because, you know, do you remember I had to go to lengths of like putting a check-up on TV? Do you remember for 1.1?
Yeah.
And silly bollocks here, I completely forgot. It had all the serial numbers on the top. People ran down the local branch trying to pull out money from the Matchroom account. You know, like my account's here going, what are you doing? Like I said, I don't know. I just thought it was a great idea at the time. Because it got everyone talking. You know, I wanted Frampton to know the kind of numbers that we were offering for this fight. So, you know, it ended up working out, but unfortunately we didn't get the win.
You know, in terms of like public perception though of you, like it's sort of now become like a rite of passage that when you finish an event and you get on the mic, everyone boos and stuff. Have you noticed though a sort of shift since the whole no context Hearn thing in terms of public perception?
I think the booing thing is something that, you know, I'd like to think, and as I tell my mum, that it's only a bit of fun. You know, it's like pantomime villain kind of stuff. She says to me, like, honestly, I go around there for a bit of Sunday dinner after the fight, and she's like, why are they booing you, son? I mean, it's horrible. Why do they do it? It's like, Mum, it's don't worry. It's like, they really love me, really, but it's just this pantomime sort of villain kind of thing. I don't know, like, Coogan says to me, you get the fewest dislikes on videos of anyone that I interview. And I thought, fucking hell, really? Like, I don't know. Maybe just like over time, I don't know, maybe people, but they can turn on you very quickly. You know, you can't take anything too seriously. Like, as long as you can look yourself in the mirror and say, like, I'm a good guy. Like, I try my best and I do the best for the fighters and I try to put on the best shows and I try to make the best fights. Not everyone's always going to agree or like with what you're doing. But I've also been around a while now. Like, I think when I was, you know, 10 years ago or 9 years ago or 8 years ago, I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. And I look back at myself now, even in pictures and stuff like that, and think, fuck it hell, you didn't really have a clue. Like, you were just going for it, you know. And that's why when I first started, people loved that, because they were like, oh, this guy's coming in. He's trying to tear up the game. He's trying to kick the old guard out. He's trying, you know, and people quite like that. They like the underdog. But then when I cracked it, they sort of went the other way, you know, and it was like, and I don't know, you know, I think that no context Hearn, I guess, has helped, but it's just opened up a whole new audience where you know, I used to get on a train or whatever to go uptown, and someone would say to me, "Oh, when's AJ fighting?" But now they're going, "Oh, go on, do that one where you go." Oh, go on, then, you know. So I just find the whole thing hilarious. And even my daughters, who are like 11 and 8, "Dad, you're all over TikTok." I'm like, I said, "I ain't got a TikTok account." I said, "No, literally." And they showed me their feed, you know, like the For You thing. And it's just like every other picture or video is me. So I thought, how is that? You know, they're probably all these kids at school thinking, "Oh, that's the Instagram guy's daughters." You know, like,
Well, Eddie, you're actually speaking to the guy who made no context turn.
Say that again, mate.
You're speaking to the guy who made no context turn.
Kieran
McCourt.
Eddie, see, honestly, we've discussed this in our group chat, right? Because you've been like a folk hero in our group chat. Like we've been watching like religiously like your videos in IFL for the last 6 years, right?
Like the Starbucks videos, the Starbucks.
I was just about to ask, right?
Yeah.
This is so true, right? I was about to ask this, Eddie. Now, given the whole sort of fame you've got through No Context Turn, if you were to remake the Starbucks drive-through video and ask the woman at the till, do they recognise you or do they know?
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, bloody hell, yeah, I forgot all about that. Yeah.
Can we redo
it? The stuff, like Coogan's been great because you can hear me now, back? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Eddie. Yeah, sorry.
We thought you were going to do that IFL thing.
No, I wasn't. I was thinking about it, but and like he's become a friend, so he gets great access. Do you know what I mean? But I think people like it because there's kind of two sides, isn't there? There's the Sky side, which is the corporate side in the interviews, and then there's the stuff with Coogan. But I think as the business gets bigger and bigger, sometimes I watch my stuff with Coogan. I'm like, you know, swearing quite a lot there. You know, like the accent slipped a little bit. You're got a bit wide boy. You know, need to. I think people like that at the same time because that's when you see me at my. That's just me. Do you know what I mean? That's just me, and I forget sometimes what I'm doing because I just feel like I'm having a conversation like with you guys. You know, like just in a pub or whatever. So he's done a great job. He's done a great job, and he gets where Walter can't. You know, that's why he's done so well because he literally has the contacts and the ability and the relationships to speak to everybody, and you know, it's that moment where you walk out somewhere and you've done 400 interviews and you just bump into him and he goes, "Oh, yeah, mate, just 2 minutes." And you go, "For fuck's sake." You never say no. You never say no. So, you know, he's cracked it.
When we had him on, he was like telling us stories of like before he was sort of well known in the boxing world, like worked for Ricky Hatton and stuff. But he says we were asking him about like awkward celebrity encounters, and he said he walked in and Jack Nicholson having a piss. And then another time, like he was asking Denzel, he was at some like fight in Vegas. It might have been like Pacquiao Hatton or something, and he was like walking up to Denzel and like asking for a photo, you know, expecting Denzel to stand up, and Denzel just sat there and looked at him. He was like, "No, you come down here, mate."
I'm still shocked that Coogan Cassius was a bodyguard. I mean, this is like the bizarre thing about boxing is Coogan Cassius was a bodyguard for Ricky Hatton, right? I mean, listen, I'm soft as shit, but he's on the same level as me. I mean, he couldn't punch his way out of a wet paper bag, nor could I. But, you know, how he got that gig, I'll never know. But it's amazing how the journey unfolds, isn't it? You know, just it's just what life does. You know, you never know where it's going to take you.
Just like to give a shout out to Manscaped, one of our sponsors from the USA. If you use our discount code Brawl Boxing, you'll get 20% off all Manscaped products on their website and free shipping. So please get all over that.
You see with yourself, obviously you've mentioned about the zone deal and all that there. I'm sure like a lot of people have seen obviously that your dad has stepped away and you've taken over sort of all of Matchroom Sports. People are obviously going to be worried maybe that you weren't going to be involved in boxing as much because you're going to be spread out over the sports. Could you like reassure everyone, like us company men, Matchroom company men, like you'll still be there getting booed after every fight?
I'm off, mate, to be honest with you.
Hey, don't
You never get rid of me. I love it too much, you know, but I do have some wider responsibilities now, but you know, virtually all of my time will be still focused on the boxing. You know, obviously there was some stuff reported from Coppinger recently. Some of it was right, some of it wasn't right. You know, we'll make a full announcement in the next few weeks about our broadcast future. And boxing is still, you know, but we're nowhere near the ceiling of where I want to be globally with boxing. So I'm not stepping away from boxing. I'm not focusing less on boxing. I'm just going to have to delegate a bit more. You know, you have to remember probably 6 years ago, it was me, Frank Smith, and John Wishausen in the boxing department. Maybe 7 years, you know, that was it. And we've grown now into, I don't know, 40 or 50 employees, 5 offices around the world. But I still have a bit of an obsession with having my own fingerprint on stuff and my own stamp on stuff. So it could be a fight poster. You know, I used to really design the fight posters with a company. I would sit down and go, this is how I want it to look. And, you know, now I've got a designer comes back to me and I'm like, fuck, what's that? No, that's not the vision I have for it. You know, and people go, Ed, just let it go. Like, you have to let the department and the teams, that's their job to do this, you know. And I was listening back to a podcast that I'd done with my old man, and he said, I would never give someone a job and then do the job myself. Right. And I think that's a great bit of advice for people in business, because if you're going to bring someone into the business and give them the responsibility and the opportunity, let them do their thing. You know, and at Matchroom, we always give young people the opportunity to go through the business if they're good enough, if they've got the work ethic, you know, if they're smart enough. And that's something that I've got to, you know, even I'm matching or I'm sitting across the 4-round fights, the 6-round fights, the 8-round fights, because I've done this. You know, I've followed boxing for 30 years. People don't know. When I was 8 or 9, I was reading the British Boxing Yearbook, which was actually like a papered box rec back then. I knew every fighter. I knew every record. I know everything. I've studied the sport for a long time. So I feel like I'm almost as qualified as a matchmaker or anything like that. So, but at some point you have to step back. You have to let things go. You have to put your trust in people. But that's a hard process when it's your business as well. And when you're so passionate about it. But I'm getting better at that, getting better. Now, basically, they just roll me out to like press conferences and stuff like that. Like, I'll drive up to Manchester in a minute and like, you know, I'll go to my room and they'll go, Eddie, come out. I go, right, yeah. They'll walk me down to the press conference and go, right, 3, 2, 1, spiel. Like that. And I'll be like, oh, fucking hell. And then I'll finish, do 50 interviews, and then they'll go, right, go back to your room. You know, I'll be like, go back, have a bit of dinner, and then go to bed. And then wake up next morning, right, you're off now, right, finish the show, right, there's your flight tickets, you're going to Dallas, drive into the airport, get off, get on the plane, get off, someone will meet you at the other end, you know, take me to my room, isolate, do my test. Eddie, come out. Well, fucking hell, back we go now. Billy Joe Saunders probably chin me or something like that. I don't know. And then we have a big argument and then do the show there. And then, right, Eddie, back you come. Right, Manchester again. That's my life, you know. So
when
now,
do you see your wife, like?
Well,
when do you see your wife?
No, it's difficult because, and the worst thing about that is like I'm a very hands-on father as well. But so when I'm back, I like to do everything. So like this week, for example, I've been taking them to school every morning at 7 o'clock, you know, without fail. I'm trying to get back to pick them up. I'm getting home from work. We're going over the park. We're playing a bit of cricket. We're doing this, you know, and then, so that's where it knocks the bollocks out of you, because when you're back and you're knackered and really you just want to like go to bed and have a shower and go to bed, you've got to put the time in, because otherwise.
And then Dunlop's on the phone.
Oh yeah. Dunlop's like Alec Morrison, the kind of bloke that I'm laying down with my daughter, you know, reading her a book or having a chat, and then you just hear, you go, and it says Dunlop, and you go, I can't fucking believe it. Leave me alone, you know. So.
I remember you telling the story once about like how you'd been away for like 2 weeks straight, and you got home and you were like on the trampoline, I think, with your kids. Yeah. And next thing you were getting texts about a Kell Brook fight or something. You were texting and your wife was shouting out the window, Eddie, get off your phone.
Oh, but even my daughter says it now. I don't feel bad. Like, she'll say to me, can you get off your phone? And like when she says that, I'm like well, it's an obsession. You know, you're either in it or you're not in it. Right? So you can't have it both ways. So we're in it.
100%. Well, Eddie, we know you've been extremely busy this week and every week, so we thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Now,
we'll catch up again soon.
Definitely. Before I let you go, I have to ask you the question though, because every single person's messaged us about Joshua.
I've heard you speak about it all the time on IFL, and I know you're like bored silly to talk about it.
Bob Arum came out. Bob, like all these people play games, they like to put pressure on through the meet, like stuff like that. I'm not into that. You know, Bob Arum said, "Oh, we haven't spoke for over a week." He said, "I looked at my messages. I thought, am I going mad here?" You know, we spoke on Thursday and Friday. On Sunday, we were all on a call. Not him, but with all the lawyers. You know, finalising the site deal, the contract, the long form. Like the situation is quite simple. Both guys signed a contract for the fight. Then everyone went, "Oh, no one will get a site deal." No one tried to get a site deal, apart from me, right? I got the site deal. We proposed it to the fighters. They were over the moon. we move forward, right? This was 9 days ago. Backwards and forwards with the drafts. This is not like a 10 grand deal that you can just write down a few bullet points and say, done. It's definitely taken longer than I anticipated, but it's done. You know, it's agreed with the territory, it's agreed with the government, it's agreed with the fighters are signed, but we do have to go through the process of papering it for a deal of this size. So I know that something can always go wrong, but Fury is on board. AJ is on board. The site is on board. Everybody's on board. We just got to finish this process with the lawyers and get it done. But it doesn't help people on both sides, you know, well, not even on both sides, on one side. Oh, he's doing this and that. Because there's so many people involved on their side. People are, well, I haven't heard anything about it. It's like, because you're not involved in this particular process. So I can't help that. Just let us crack on. I couldn't have worked any harder on this deal. And I felt like almost like a one-man army going out to try and do this. All the pressure has been on me. Like all the work has been on me, but I wouldn't have it any other way, because when I pull it off, I'm going to scream from the rooftop tops that I was the one that pulled this off. You know what I mean? And if I fail and it don't go through, well, then I'm just going to delete social media. Go hide for a couple of months, and then I'll just come back and go, I'm back. You know? We'll see. I won't stop till it's done. I really believe we'll get it done.
Eddie, one more thing before I let you go, right? Because
Fucking
we're
hell,
really
man.
busy, right? I know. One more, right?
We're relentless, Eddie.
We are relentless, right? Brawl Boxing, the Matchroom Diaries, once a month. You're Frank every month. Come on and talk to us 35 minutes. Let's make it happen.
Okay.
I have to admire the brass neck.
Once a month's not.
I know.
Yeah.
Once a month's
You've got to get
fine.
me at the right time. You know, like
That's it.
you know, all good.
Yeah.
I'll find
that's
you
it,
when you're on
Eddie.
your trampoline. I'll DM you because you know
Yeah,
I'll
thanks,
answer your
mate.
phone. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Eddie, thanks a million for coming on. Really, really appreciate it.
Eddie.
Thanks a
Good
million.
man. Thank
Have
you.
a good one. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, guys, that's it for our episode with Eddie Hearn. We hope you enjoyed it. Another sponsor who's made this all possible for us is That Prize Guy. They're a company from Bangor in Northern Ireland which runs competitions daily. Everything from cars and PS5s to holidays and cash prizes. They've given away over 500,000 so far. And I actually saw a girl win 20 grand last week from a fiver. So it's an incredible business. Give them a follow on Instagram or check out their website. Use code BRAWL20 and you'll get 20% off any entries into all of their competitions. Thanks again for your support.
White girl problems, met her back in autumn. Every gift I try to get her, she already got them. Messing with the TA, wonder what she taught him. Work her way down, literally to the bottom. Where are all my best friends? How can I ignore them? Never gonna text them, I am too important. Look at what my dad bought, yeah it was imported. He took a second loan cause our family can't afford it. Nice guy, bound to finish last if it's a sport. Call her CeeLo cause she crazy and her arms are kinda short. Got a traffic ticket